Hello everybody, welcome back to the Alistar item guide. This time, I'm going to show you guys how I build the cow, and the first thing I want to say about Alistar's builds is if you want to be a meta slave and you just want to build what is probably the best build every single game, you're going to be forced into redemption. So you don't even need to watch this video if that's the case, because your whole build is just going to be Eye of the Equinox into Redemption into Locket of the Iron Solari every single game. So you can pretty much ignore this video if that's what you want to do. If you're like me though, and you're not really good at using Redemption, and you also just don't like the item in general, well, you have a lot more creativity in your build, because all of a sudden, the stuff that you're going to build depends on what you're playing against, and the situation you're in. As you can see from this item set, I have the standard consumables and starting items in the top here. I have this for all of my builds. And then I have two main builds that I choose between, the magic resist focused one and the armor focused one. Now, I always get Ionian boots because I find that I do have move speed quints in my rune setup, so I don't really need like boots of swiftness or boots of mobility, although you could go with those. But I really like the summoner cooldown on Ionian boots because it means I can flash engage on people more. And I also love the cooldown reduction because cooldown reduction on Alistar is actually surprisingly strong. If you don't have cooldown reduction on Alistar, it's extremely rare that you'll ever be able to get more than one combo off in an entire team fight. And that is going to handicap you a lot. So that's why I like Ionian so much, and I use that in every single one of my builds. Eye of the Equinox as well has been buffed recently because Riot just gave it 10% cooldown reduction for free for no reason, so I love this item and I get it every game. As you can see, the standard item I go after my Equinox is ZZ. You don't have to do this, but I like it because it gives you dual resists, which is amazing in just about any situation, and it gives you move speed, which for Alistar is so fucking good. The extra move speed helps you engage on people, and it's just a massive deal. It's kind of like buying an early Guardian Angel, except it doesn't suck. You could get a Locket of the Iron Solari instead though if you wanted to, so you can switch the build order around to your liking. If you're gonna go ZZ Rot first, I go Locket afterwards in a magic resist build because Locket is kind of overpowered right now, almost as OP as Redemption. The reason why you can get away with it is because even though Locket is not actually a health item, it does give you indirect health because of the shield. So it does work out in the end, and it's just an OP item in general, so I like to get this quite a bit. If you are building heavy magic resist, then Banshees is also an option, and I do like to get that item. I have been testing Spirit Visage out a lot, and in general I find that the cooldown reduction is very nice, but the item is just too expensive. Part of what you're paying for when you're buying Spirit Visage is actually the passive, which increases the healing you receive. And yeah, you do have some healing through your own passive, but it's not really that good. So Spirit Visage, in my experience, it just becomes too expensive, and I don't think it's worth it. That's why I think Banshee's Veil is so much better here. Also, I do get Banshee's Veil because you kind of need the health at this point in the game. If you didn't need the health, then I honestly wouldn't even be going Banshees. I would probably be going Mikhail's Crucible because it gives you MR, it gives you cooldown reduction, and it's an amazing support item if you're good at using it. But, like I said, I do feel like you really need the health at this point in the game, so that's why I get the Banshees. Lastly, if the game goes long enough, which it almost never does, then I would get a Righteous Glory. The reason for this is because if you're so late in the game that you have full items, it's extremely likely that the enemy AD carry will also have full items, and that means they're going to deal a lot of damage, and that most likely means that you're going to have to dive them because you are kind of an engage and kind of a diving champion. So what better item in the game to get than Righteous Glory, the best diving item in the game? There's also the armor build, which is pretty much the same build as the magic resist build, except we switched the Banshee's Veil for an armor health item instead of an armor MR item, in this case Knight's Vow, which is an insanely good item. It's basically Bond of Stone on crack. And then we also switched the Locket for a Frozen Heart, because Frozen Heart against heavy AD teams is actually an insane item, and it also gives you 20% cooldown reduction, which is really good utility. Not to mention the attack speed reduction. And then we pretty much just switch around the build order so that we get the health item first, because we really need that to be anywhere near as tanky as we want to be. So that's why I go Knight's Vow into Frozen Heart. And then again, we finish Righteous Glory for the same reasons why we did it up here. Now, I do have a third build that I use sometimes, but I only really use it if the enemy team is extremely attack speed reliant. So if I'm playing against something like a Master Yi, or if the enemy team has a Kayle or an Azir mid lane, getting an early Frozen Heart is actually insane, and it can pretty much win you a team fight straight up. Just having the attack speed reduction screws those kinds of champions so hard. After the Frozen Heart, I would still get the Locket, because you do need at least a little bit of magic resist, and again, this item is just OP in general. And then we finish with some health items that also give you armor. Again, Knight's Vow is insanely strong, and Dead Man's Plate is kind of like an armor version of Righteous Glory. It doesn't really do the same job as well, which is understandable considering Dead Man's Plate gives your team absolutely no movement speed. But it still kind of does the same thing, and this is a heavy armor build after all, so we're going to want the Dead Man's there. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, you don't actually have to build this. If you really like Redemption, then you can just buy that item every game, because it's busted, to be honest, even after the nerfs. But if you're like me and you like being creative, hopefully this video gave you an idea of what is possible and still really strong on Alistar. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it, so take care, have a nice day, and peace.